Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on our second annual Women's History Month Roundtable. Today, we're going to be discussing motherhood. Thank you, everybody on Instagram that's watching, everyone on Facebook. And today, we have a great group of women who are going to talk about their experiences and the ins and outs of motherhood. So, without further ado, Joy, can you tell us your full name, what you do for a living, and where you are on your motherhood journey?
Thank you so much, Elektra. Hi, everybody. My name is Joy Straza Kelly. I am a creative director. I'm in advertising. And I'm really excited to be here because I feel like I'm going to learn a lot considering I'm pregnant, introducing you to my little baby girl. She's in all of her glory.
That's
I'm
fabulous.
only a couple weeks from my due date. So I'm a first-time mom. I am being thrown into it in real time. I can't wait to hear the perspectives of more experienced moms than myself. But I certainly have a lot to say about the journey up to this point, which I'm really excited to dig into. So thank you, Elektra, for having me.
Of course. Grace, tell us your name, what you do, where you're from, and where you are on your motherhood journey.
Okay, so thank you so much, Elektra, too, for the opportunity. My full name is Grace Lynn Brooks, but people call me Grace. It's kind of unique, Grace Lynn. And originally, I'm from Brazil, but I haven't been here. I have a dual citizenship. I haven't been here for maybe now 13 or 14 years, I wouldn't say. But yeah, my motherhood journey is being really great for now because I have a teenager daughter. I have just one daughter, and now I'm embracing the teenager part of how to deal with a child while working as an attorney too. We have the challenge, but also the benefits. And I'm sure that we all going to talk about this today here. And I'm very pleasant and glad to meet all these ladies too, to have made some time and talk such important issue.
Hashi, tell us your full name, where you're from, what you do, and where you are on your motherhood journey.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Hashi Richards. I am an immigration attorney and also an estate planning and probate attorney. I live in Orlando, Florida. I was born in India, and my son just celebrated his 10th birthday. So I'm sort of a little younger than Graceleen's daughter, and ahead of Joy, who's going to have her baby. And Elektra has kids younger than me, and Amanda will be having, hopefully, well, you can share your story. But I'm so happy to be here. I'm certainly no expert, not an expert mom, and have made many mistakes along the way. I'm just so happy to be here and share with all of you.
Thank you, Hashi. Amanda, tell us your full name, where you're from, what you do, and where you are on your motherhood journey.
Thank you, Elektra, for organizing. My name is Amanda Schaefer Atchison. I'm also an attorney. I'm in New York. I practice immigration, family, criminal defense law. I might sound like I am not up to 100% right now. I am at a much earlier stage in my journey than everyone else, although I am a dog mom. I have two lovely dogs that I've had for 13 and a half years. So I'm an expert on dog moms, if anybody has questions. But I started IVF treatment, which is intra vitro fertilization. I don't know. I don't even know what it stands for. I just know why I'm doing it. So basically, I am 34 years old, and my husband and I were not ready to have children yet, and we can talk about those decisions as we go along. But I was very grateful when I learned about this option to freeze embryos, because basically, if I decide since I'm getting older, decide in 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is, that now is the time for us to have kids. It looks like we lost Elektra. Hopefully,
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. It kind of just went black. Can you guys see me?
Now
I
can
see you guys throughout the whole process. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Continue.
No, no worries.
I apologize for interrupting.
Yeah, so it gives us the ability to make that decision when we're ready. Some people react like everything's normal to this treatment. A small majority, which of course I'm a part of, do not react very well. Everything's going great. Hopefully I'll be done with this in less than a week, but I feel very sick right now. So I didn't want to cancel because I didn't even know I was doing this until Sunday. I'm happy to be here, and I'll do my best to sound. I am excited, so I'll do my best to sound enthusiastic. But the reason why I may sound a little less than alive is because the treatment process has been a struggle. But for anyone thinking about doing it, I've spoken to a lot of people about it, and not a lot of people have told me that they did not experience these things. So don't use me as an example.
I'm sorry you're not feeling well. I know that it's a difficult process, and IVF is actually considered to be surgery. So thank you so much for being here. And I know that it's hard. So feel free to jump off whenever you feel like it's best for you.
Thank you.
My name is Elektra. I'm from New York, and I practice immigration law with a focus on international artists. So I'm known as the artist visa lawyer. And on my journey is a bumpy journey. I feel like I'm learning every single day. I have 3 kids. My big daughter is 4. She's graduating from preschool. My son is 2.5. And then my baby daughter she just turned 3 months on the 10th. So all different ages, different personalities, and I'm learning every day, and I hope to learn from everybody on this panel. So I was actually thinking about this before we dive into the questions that I prepared. I was actually talking to this with 2 other attorneys that I know that actually just had babies. Like, we all had babies within maybe 2 weeks of each other. And we were talking about what are the things that we're not prepared for. Right. I took a birthing class with my husband. I bought all the baby books, but I feel like that was probably 10% of the knowledge that I needed to have when I had my children. So Grace, do you want to tell us something that you wish you had known when you were pregnant or before you had your daughter?
Oh, okay. One thing that I had to learn is time management. I had to learn that. I had no idea before what was time management. And so this was when I had my daughter, I have to, what time she goes to bed. Usually she sleeps, take her naps, And so I would just adjust my time to her time. But the most difficult part is when you are a full-time mom and work full-time. Sometimes, there are some attorneys that prefer to work part-time when they have babies. And I have met many that chose that, or sometimes do just doc review, works that they would work at home too. So as for me, I was always working outside. So I had to be, I had to learn this time management. So it was not about me anymore. It was about my baby. So this is something that I have to pay attention. What time she goes to bed? What time she usually wakes up? If she was a newborn, what time she usually wakes up and feel hungry. So I had to observe all this and adjust my time into her time. So I don't feel guilt conscious, because that's another thing too. All the moms feel that, feeling guilty for not spending so much time with the kids and spend more time working, and dedicate your time for other people. So I think it's important you just manage this time.
I think that's a great point. Hashi, is there something that you wish that you had known before your motherhood journey?
For me, so I was pregnant at 36 and I didn't deliver until I was 37. And they coined it as a geriatric pregnancy. But I was like, I feel great. I had a really good pregnancy up until the delivery day. And so they ended up doing a C-section, which I wasn't prepared for. I thought I was going to, like everyone, have a natural delivery. But when I came home 3 days after he was born, I remember being worried in the very beginning, probably for the first month or so when he was sleeping. I couldn't sleep because I was scared that what do they call it? When you swaddle them, it would sometimes come undone and it would go and cover his mouth. And I remember getting up and not being able to relax when he was sleeping because I thought he wasn't able to breathe. And then I also had breastfeeding issues. I wasn't producing enough milk. At the time I was working for a law firm. So I had, I think, 6 or 8 weeks off. And so I was obsessing over making milk. And I remember having a lactation consultant come in. And I remember, I think I even have it on video, just bawling, just crying like a mess because comparing myself to other moms who were making so much milk and thinking I was inadequate. Then finally coming to the realization that I'm no less of a mom if I can't make milk. And I'm getting emotional even thinking about it because it brings back those memories. And now looking back, what a waste for me to be thinking all of that when now he's so healthy and flourishing. It's so inconsequential now, but back then it took over. So
thank you for sharing that. There's a lot of discussion. I'm a part of a couple of like breastfeeding mom groups. And I think that now people say like best is fed, or fed is best, sorry. And that's one thing that I agree with you. I feel like there's not a lot of support in terms of not only breastfeeding, but how we're supposed to nourish our babies and how it's okay that there are different methodologies to nourish your baby. It's just not talked about, I feel like, enough. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry it brought back difficult memories.
Can I share something before I forget just this? I remember that before I also had my baby, I had this worry about, not being able to breastfeed. But I was trying to, every time I would go to the shower, I was trying to do this. And I don't know if it was like a superstition, whatever it was who told me. I don't remember if it was a doctor at the time, but they say just like put the sponge a lot of your nipples, try to just start to stimulate your breasts before they are born. So, and I did that before I gave labor. So I had no problems with breastfeeding, but I don't know if that's relevant for now. It's just something that I did before. I don't want to share.
Yeah. Joy, is there something that you wished you knew about pregnancy that you feel like you weren't prepared for?
Yeah, I think in my case, I wasn't prepared to become a low performer compared to what I was prior to becoming pregnant because I was super sick in the first trimester. It's one thing to say I wasn't prepared for the unexpected, which is, of course, extraordinarily fair, right? Anything can happen with pregnancy. I think there's a degree of acceptance of that. But what really caught me off guard was the psychological impact of that. And I, got very used to the ability to just push myself through, whether that be, in a career capacity or even at home. My husband and I are renovating the house. And, when I shut my computer and I'm done with work, I'm off helping him. And I went from operating at 110% all the time to pretty much zero, pretty much being on the couch with my head in the toilet around the clock, and I got extremely depressed. I knew it was temporary. I knew I was supported and I knew it was okay, but there was no amount of logic for a couple of months there to get me through this feeling of like real deep depression. And I'm happy to say that I've since come out of that, but it was coming out of that was a direct line to my productivity and feeling like myself again. And so I think a lot about the women who feel sick their entire pregnancy from start to finish and then go right into the newborn, the fourth trimester, so to speak. And boy, is my heart with them. And I'm thinking about you, Amanda, right now, because, you're going through a lot of sickness and just, not feeling like yourself. And, I don't want to speak for you or represent your journey in any way, but I will go so far as to say, I'm sure that it's not easy psychologically, just like it's not easy physically.
No, you're right. And actually, when I spoke to people before who didn't get physically sick, they said psychologically it affected them the most. But I made a joke. I'm in like a group with Elektra and Hashi. How I was like, if this is how pregnancy is, this is not what I want. And then Hashi's like, oh, I had a great pregnancy. And I was like, not convinced, and showed her my face like, so yeah, I could definitely see that. That's definitely a fear of mine because I don't react well to body changes and stuff. So, I mean, I know like this isn't indicative of what a pregnancy might be, but if it is, that would suck. And I feel for all those ladies out there.
Hoping the best for you, girl.
Thank you.
What do you feel like you knew more about? Like, I know you said you talked to a lot of people about their IVF journey, but what do you feel like you wish you knew? Like I told you, to have your husband with you at least the first day.
Yeah. No, he's been great, and I'm very grateful to have him because I know the same process. Friends who have just been retrieving eggs, who aren't in relationships, they go through the same thing. So I'm grateful to have him. He makes me little packs of my medicine every day, so I know what I need, and he gets me like the ice pack after, and make sure I like wipe and have the gauze. So he's been amazing. I wish I could have planned it better. So I don't know for anyone else who's done it, but I was on birth control for a very long time beforehand, and I had to stop it months before. So I stopped it in like September, and then this all depends on when you get your period last. And a lot of people are regular and they know, and they can plan their schedule. I got my period once, then twice in September, but I had gotten it once, and the doctor's like, well, we can induce it. So if you don't get it, like took a blood test, and they're like, you're going to get it soon. So if you don't, then we'll induce it. And because of that, I couldn't plan my work schedule. And we're going to be homeless on April 1st if we don't find an apartment. So while I'm feeling like this, I've been running around all week trying to find an apartment to live in. So that sucks. So I guess, timing wise, I guess I wish I could have pushed it out a month, but I just wanted to get it over with. But I guess I didn't. I don't know. There's not much more I could have known, except I wish I was able to better plan it, but I don't know if that's a wish that could have been granted, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I went through IVF with my first daughter. I was actually told by 2 different doctors in 2 different countries I would never have kids. So in terms of the planning, I understand you, because I think that we didn't do the research. I don't remember anymore, but like we went to the doctor and he's like, when did you get your period? And I'm very bad about these things. Like I just like don't remember these things ever. And I'm like, maybe like Wednesday, Tuesday. He's like, okay, you want to start? You want to wait next month? And he's like, I'm going to leave you and your husband in a room together. You guys decide. So my husband and I looked at each other. We're just like, F it. Let's just do it. We don't want to wait another month. And, I didn't feel as bad as you were feeling. The first couple of days were a little bit tough. And I think I told you, like, all of our embryos, we only had one, and that was Maxime. So we were very, very lucky. And I remember, like, I took like a pregnancy test and it was negative, and, I was bawling. My husband, who's the eternal optimist, was like, don't worry, the test is wrong. It worked. Don't worry. And I didn't believe him because I'm, a Debbie Downer on certain things. And he ended up being right. It was Maxime. But that's just my IVF experience. And then the other 2 kids were natural conceptions.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. One thing that I wish that people talked about more is I was very thin before my kids. I feel like I had a very, very nice figure. And I bought, like, I was very into vintage clothes and all of that stuff. I actually still have all of my vintage clothes, and I will get into them again. But I wasn't really prepared for, this mourning of my body. I know that a lot of the narrative out there and the rhetoric out there is about being positive about, the body that you have because you grew babies, etc., and all that stuff. And that's fine. That's great. And I'm happy for people who are cognizant of their body changes and love their body changes. But there are other women who may not be so happy with the changes with their body. And that's okay. It's okay to not like, the body that you had, even though you grew, these babies, these amazing people that you're raising. And I just wish that there were a space where women could come together to really acknowledge that part, to be collectively okay about being sad about not having, what their body looked like previously. Because I don't see that. I feel like there's a lot of narrative about it's okay, you grew babies and you have a new body and you should just accept yourself the way you are. But it's okay to be critical. There's nothing wrong with being critical and cognizant of changes and wanting things to maybe look different, or at least look the way they looked before. That's something that I was not prepared for at all, especially because everyone told me, including my mom, oh, don't worry, you're going to lose the weight when you breastfeed. And I breastfed all my kids, and I produce a lot, but I didn't lose weight. In fact, I actually gained weight. I'm one of those people that if I don't eat a lot of carbs, I'm not able to produce large quantities. So I'm a carb queen now. Like that's what have been my life for like the past, like every time I have to breastfeed my children. And carbs don't make you lose weight. Even though you burn, like I think they say like 500 calories a day breastfeeding.
So Elektra, that actually makes me think of one thing I didn't know earlier in this process that I wish I did know, because I have some like physical health things like pinched nerves and stuff. So there's part of like we were thinking like, oh, we'll just put the embryo into a surrogate. And yeah, there's a part of me that's like, that I won't affect my body type of thing, even though like I know that's an issue a lot of women deal with, but I never thought about it too much. And we did learn 2 days ago from the doctor. She's like, so you need to send the like embryos to go get FDA testing first before you can put another person's body. We have to do that before we freeze it. We should have kind of known that in the beginning. And we were like, and like, I mean, ultimately if I can have the baby myself, which I'm physically healthy, like I can, it just like, if your back hurts, I can only imagine how much more your back would hurt with something in your belly, growing a child. But I didn't know that. And we both, my husband and I were like, oh, we'll just put it in someone else. We'll pay someone else to carry it. And she's like, nope, it's not that simple. But apparently they can do it retroactively, but you have to be careful with the thawing and everything. But yeah, that's definitely something that factored into what I was thinking when it came to that.
Just want to highlight this comment, loving this, by Angela Gallo. Angela is my cousin. She's an internationally renowned doula. She lives in Australia, and she's fantastic at what she does. She's internationally recognized for her amazing work that she does for supporting women on their motherhood journey, the beauty, the difficulty of motherhood, empowering women. So thank you so much, Angela, for watching this. I know that you're super busy. So let's dive into our first question. What is the best part about being a mom or a soon-to-be mom? Hashi, do you want to go first?
So for me, I mean, it's just the whole journey, from when he was born to now. The past 10 years have been just like fascinating for me to watch. I think the 10-year mark, of course, I'm just a really emotional person, but the 10-year mark really got me, because I'm like, how did 10 years go by so quickly? Watching him now at this age, growing into his own, developing his own personality, asserting his independence, making like friendships, all of these things is just so amazing to me. And just looking forward to the future, and him narrowing down his interest on what he wants to do. I'm just loving it. I really have embraced, the present moment and watching every step and really, really embracing it. So.
Yeah, and your son, I see on Facebook, he's both an athlete and an actor. So you have a lot. You have a lot to do. I mean, at least he chose two professions that are, will set him up for life.
He loves both. And I told, my husband was also a former athlete. So I remember him telling me all the time, it's like a performance when you're on the basketball court. So he plays basketball. And so I asked him, actually, we went to a play when we were in Chicago. And when the play was done, he said, he got up on the stage and when the play was over and he said, I want to be an actor. I said, okay, because he's already done some modeling and things. So I put him in this acting and he did the Tangled play and he was nervous in the beginning, but he really ended up liking it. So there's, you can compare being on the basketball court to acting in a play, because really when you're going up and down the court dribbling, everyone's watching you. You may not realize it because you're so into it, but it's sort of similar to being on a stage. So
Gotta act out
Exactly.
those fouls.
yeah, exactly.
Grace, what's your favorite part about being a mom?
My favorite part is to be a child back, is to have an excuse to play, to play with her, the things that I used to love to do. Like, I used to love play volleyball in high school. I love it. And so I started to play with her in front of the house and say, hey, let's play some things, let's get out of the iPad, because that's something too that you need to deal with now is the iPads, because my time I do not have iPads, all this that they are having now. And so I play with her. That's I love to do that too. That's some like a therapy for me, like on the weekends, let's go get a volleyball and let's play, and we spend the time together. Also depends. Harshi has a boy, right? A little boy, and I have a little girl, which is like the funny thing, Harshi, is to receive those funny and smart answers back, from girls. I maybe your boy, I don't know if he does the same, but yes, the little girls now they act like 26 years old. It's amazing, and they seem to know more than you too. So that's fun. I take it this as a funny things because I just look at her and say, you just think that you know, but you don't know all. You're still learning. But she speaks so convincingly that she knows everything. And I think that's one of the best parts too, to see that the parts that she thinks that she knows everything, but in the long run, she's gonna learn what's real life.
Agreed. Joy, what's your favorite part about being pregnant?
Strangely enough, I think what I've enjoyed the most, I think I'll start by saying the obvious. Like, I am shocked about what my body can do, right? Like, I'm 36 and I've waited a while for this and I've thought about it a lot. And, she's kicked me 100 times since this meeting has started. And, there's already a bond happening and she's not even here yet. So it's just the most profound experience. But I think part of pregnancy that has been so enjoyable is other moms. Moms are amazing. As soon as I got pregnant, there was a group of women from here and there and everywhere that would hit me up and with open arms. It's like this sisterhood all over again. And it's just been the most wonderful thing. And, I know also that there's a lot of like toxic mommy content on the internet, and there's good, bad, ugly, there's the whole range of it, right? But in my personal experience, I've been really lucky to be surrounded by powerful women, supportive women, transparent women, who just have bestowed so much wisdom and encouragement on me. So I already like being a mom because I like being amongst them, and I'm grateful for that.
What a great answer. That's very thoughtful. And I'm glad that you have like such a strong support system around you to help you. Hopefully that support system will extend to when she comes.
I hope so.
Amanda, the favorite part about your journey, about being a soon-to-be mom, about planning your future mom career?
Well, for the record, it is possible those embryos will go unused. We don't know. I mean, COVID kind of turned all our plans upside down. Like, I thought by now we'd be settled in the suburbs in our house and, probably ready to start a family. And COVID came and we had to end up pushing our wedding a year and a half because of it. or no, I lied, like 10 months. But still, we couldn't buy the house because house prices. I mean, it's anyone who's tried to look for a house recently, especially in the suburbs of the city, knows what I'm talking about. It's maddening how you can't even get anything. So, our plans kind of got pushed back, and I was never the person who was like, I'm gonna be like, I want children. Like I've never always assumed like when I was ready, like I would want them. And I guess we're not ready yet. And I'm just, I guess, grateful that I learned about the IVF process because I was feeling so much pressure. I remember from since I was 16, my gynecologist would be like, you need to have your first child by the time you're 34. And I'm looking at my watch, like, she's like, because then, like Kashi said, it becomes like a geriatric pregnancy and you're at risk. And I'm looking at my watch, like, I'm going to be 34 soon. Like, shit, I'm 34. Like, I need to make decisions. And like, I mean, I have a partner in my practice. It's just me and my brother-in-law. Like, we have not gotten we don't have a staff to be able to handle anything in my absence. Like, we're not at that point. Like, financially, we can handle it. But like, in terms of stability with like where we are, we haven't decided where we want to be. We haven't decided where we want to end up. And it's hard to make that decision. So I have nephews. I have a 7-year-old nephew and a 5-year-old nephew. He just turned 5, and they're adorable and loud. And I love
Kids are loud.
I love being an aunt and being with them for an hour or so. And I think the thing though that I watch my husband with them too, because some days he'll say he never wants kids, and other days he'll say, well, when we have kids, type of thing. But watching him teach them, my husband loves to learn, and he's super smart, and he likes to teach my nephews things. So like I love like just watching that happen and watching like seeing kids like figure out how to do things, like just like them making the connections themselves. To me, that's really interesting, and it goes back to my raising my puppy, because that was the same type of thing. Like they start off as like this little thing that like can't really do anything, and all of a sudden they're running in circles and like can sit and do things. So I know like comparing dogs and people are, it only goes so far, but that's my experience. And I could say that I could see that like going over to having children, especially with my nephews, because I like to like see like I hear about like the questions they ask my sister, like they're very interesting. She likes to like post the funny comments like online and stuff, and we talk about it, and like just seeing their new interest in like I know one of the older one is very into girls, so he's always has like following girls around, and it's adorable. So I mean, there are things I definitely, if we do decide to have children, I look forward to. But if we don't, at least I know that I didn't have to feel like the clock was ticking on me to make that decision. And last thing I'll say is hearing all of you girls, and that I'm not the only one around this age or older getting pregnant and doing well, and pregnancy going well, it does make me feel better too. Because I know that technology's improved and the doctor is like, no, like you're fine. But like I don't want to necessarily make it in the next year. I'd say by the time I'm 40, I would think I'd make that decision, but technically I could make it even later. So it's just nice to know that I'm on my own timeline, and I'll be able to be just as excited at that time as all of you are.
That's a great way to look at it. And I'm really glad that now we have different possibilities and less pressure. I'm sorry that your gynecologist said that to you. That's ridiculous and crazy. I know women of all ages who've had successful, healthy pregnancies at 36, 34 and later on. So I'm sorry about that, but you have the technology to help you, and you and your husband will make the best decision for you and your family.
I know at the time, like I was 16 a long time ago, that was the like conventional way of thinking. And it just, I don't know why it stuck in my head, because I just always like felt like by that time, that's when you got to do it, because then you want to have another child 4 years later. I was like, if you want to have another child, like, and space it out a little, that's what she was kind of saying too. But yeah, I'm glad that that's not true anymore.
Yeah. I'm like you. I actually never wanted kids. I never got married. I never wanted to get married. It was not something that like we grew up, like my mom like never taught, like, not that she never taught us that, but like it just was not something that was like a part of like my narrative growing up. I just always wanted to like work and be out there. But then you fall in love and like the rest is history. Your life completely changes.
My mom wants more grandchildren, and she is watching, and she has asked me several times why we don't just get pregnant. And Mom, when I'm ready, I love you.
My mom was actually very sad when I started dating my husband. My husband and I have been together for like 13 years because my mom wanted me to like go out and sleep with a bunch of different people and have a bunch of different like experiences in life. So we just, that's the type of household like I grew up in. Like I don't think my mom expected children or grandchildren. And I think that, once obviously we got married, that's when like she started like asking for it. But my favorite thing about being a mom is really simple. I love the hugs and the cuddles. So after work, music is very important to us. I love art, and everyone knows I represent artists. So after school and after work, I always try to choose a different song or a different genre of music for Maxime and Gaetano and for the baby and I to dance to together, because it's just a really great, simple way to have them hug you and kiss you and to do movement together, have an experience together, something that they can remember. So my husband is teaching them chess, and what I do is I dance with them, and then we do like the reading and writing and all that stuff. So like right now, my daughter is in her My Chemical Romance phase, and she calls it the hard music. She's like, "Mommy, can you put the hard music so we can dance?" And I love having that experience, because when we're dancing, it's not like real dancing. It's Maxime is on my leg, Inez is in my arms, and Gaetano's holding my hand, and we're kind of just like swaying together. And that's just like, it makes me cry because it's just such a sweet, sweet moment for all of us to be together. Because I know Grace was talking about, the guilt, and I'm one of those horrible people, horrible moms, that I'm always constantly second guessing myself and trying to figure out like what is the best solution, like what's the best course of action, how do I make this happen, how do I get this done for them. And I feel very alone in that, because of course my husband is super supportive and is like, don't worry, this is all in your head, but those are the moments that make me feel like I'm a good mom.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, Elektra, because I was just I was thinking in the past before you come up with that the topic, and I was thinking, how can I spend more time with my daughter? We need to do some things, just not to go to the mall and buy stuff. It's just like, okay, let's do something. And so I came up with the idea to learn instrument, the guitar, because she learns the cello in school. So we're both now taking class for guitar. So we're together learning a new language. Basically, it's different. So I'm learning the guitar with her in the same class. And she's like, don't do that. Don't ask me. But it's something that we can do together, like you were just doing. So that's an idea too, if you want to spend some time.
Yeah, I think that as working moms, like our time, we have so many competing interests, right? We have the business, and then we've got the clients, and then you've got, your personal relationships with your spouse, then your, friendships with your friends. There's all this stuff going around. And it's hard. I don't even know like another way to describe it. It is very, very challenging to be successful with all these competing interests. And to, again, like moms, I think we're just predisposed to having this guilt.
I have a question for you ladies. I know Grace, Hashi, Elektra, you have your own law firms. Was the fact that you had children or were going to have children, did that impact your decision?
Yeah, go ahead, Harsh. I'm just talking more. Please go ahead. I'll tell you.
So, I mean, I was working for a firm when I had my son, and then I think when he turned 2, I think it was Valentine's Day or the day before, that law firm called me and they said, we're doing restructuring, and which means letting people go. And they let like 10 of us go on the same day, one after the other. And I think I took like a year or two to be present with him. I was fortunate to be able to do that. And then concentrated on opening up my own firm. So it sort of happened organically, I guess, because now it works out great. He's in the other room doing virtual schooling, and I'm in here on this call. So yeah, it happened that way, but I'm fortunate. It was really a blessing in disguise when I look back.
Yes.
Sure. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Grace.
I was just saying too, for me, it starts because of the pandemic. The pandemic changed a lot of things. And I used to work for another firm too. And they came up with this crazy schedule during the pandemic that you working at home, but you work almost 24 hours a day. I'm not going to tell the name of it, but it was crazy. And my daughter started to complain to even my husband. It's like, you are working too much. You don't give, you don't have any more a life, So yeah, and so they had to lay off people too. So I was blessed that happened to me too. And so I went ahead and just decided to do my own farming. And I think it's the best, because you do your schedule too. You can have as many cases as you want to. You can be selective. So you don't have to do all the workload that they impose to you. It's benefit.
Joy, how is being pregnant working for someone? Because we all have our own practices. Are you concerned about like time off? Are you concerned about daycare if you guys are going to do that? Does your company have certain policies in place to ensure a smooth transition back to work for you?
Yeah, I think concerns, I would check yes on all of the above. The interesting thing that I totally agree with you, Grace, about your comment about how the pandemic has changed things, because advertising is notorious for women not being able to make more senior positions once they hit that motherhood decision, because it's just, this job comes with a pound of flesh. It's a lot of work. It's around the clock. It never sleeps. And it's really competitive. So and I feel like you guys can probably all relate to that in your space too. We're in a historically male-dominated career path. I happen to specialize in health and wellness, which is also a really highly regulated space. And our success is dependent on winning and losing. And we got to win. And you got to do what it takes. And so that's why so many women actually, in drawing a parallel to opening up your own practice, they go freelance. Mm-hmm. And it's a very ageist space too. So as you come up in your career in a freelance space, it's like dying out. Everybody knows it. It's this horrible, horrible unspoken truth. And so I am concerned about that. I also feel really lucky though, because one of the craziest things that came out of this pandemic is a collective realization about the burden of home and work. And I think a lot of guys are experiencing it with us now, having had quarantine from home and having had little kids jump in on their Zoom calls and all of those demands being really present. And I think that there's a renewed emphasis in my agency, specifically on work-life balance. So I feel really lucky. But having said all of that, I am also at a crossroads in my career. And I declined a promotion this year, politely and gratefully declined it, because I have a lot of concern about, it's basically going to double my workload. So I'm losing my ability to have more control. Right now, where I'm at, I have more control. And that is far more important to me than the next title, which is hopefully right around the corner. Hopefully that's a next year thing. It doesn't have to be a this year thing. They have to put me first.
How did they react to that?
With total respect. I am so lucky. They basically said, when you're ready, just say the word and we'll do this thing. So it went very well, actually. Yeah.
Good. Not a lot of women. I'm a part of this Facebook group called Working Support for Working Women.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically, I think, like 10,000 moms who work. And you just read these stories of, you know, the employer wants them to be there at like 8 a.m. They have childcare issues. They feel like they're unable to excel both as a mom and as an employee for the firm that they're working at. Total lack of understanding of the responsibilities of being a mom. So you're super lucky to be able to work for a company that recognizes that you're going to a different phase in your life and that they're still willing to promote you once you're ready to be promoted.
Yeah, I will say I have no idea how I'm going to pull off the motherhood thing. The working, I have no idea how that's going to go. So we'll see. I'm very, very worried, but my husband's really supportive too. So we'll see. Maybe, I don't know. We have to figure out the childcare thing, but it's one of the biggest sources of anxiety.
Yeah.
So I'm happy for the support.
Which brings me to my next question. What are some difficulties of being a mom? Kashi? Or is it all easy peasy?
Well, for me, I mean, I was fortunate enough to, when my son was really little, I was attending this church, and one of the classes there was learning about conscious discipline, which is self-regulation of emotions. And first I had to identify my own emotions and deal with what I was going through and what type of parent I was going to be. Once I was able to work on my own emotions and the way that I reacted to him, and he was still a baby at the time, it helped so much. So now we're here 10 years later that I don't really have a lot of behavior issues with him, because I think we worked on that so much when he was younger, meaning identifying the feeling that he was having, whether it's being happy, being sad, angry. You guys can look it up. It's really, really fascinating. They even have these things called feeling buddies, that are little faces. And so we would hold up the little doll that he would identify with and say, that's me, I'm angry, and we would talk about it. We would go through all those things, so that now at 10 years old, if he's upset, he will come in and say, I'm angry, Mom, I'm upset, I'm frustrated, or I'm sad. We'll talk about it, and we'll do a productive way to work through that feeling, whether it's going for a walk or doing all these things. And again, being at home with him, I'm able to really tune in to all of those things. But right now, what I'm going through with him is being able to let go as he's getting older. I'm completely a total obsessive mom. Not a helicopter mom, because I'll let him do things, but just watching him grow up and wondering what me and my husband are going to do when he leaves. It's just going to be the two of us again. And also watching him get hurt, physically hurt in, these basketball games. We were in the ER a couple weeks ago when he hit his head with another boy. And then watching him get emotionally hurt and helping him work through those feelings. And then finally, also, he's 10, so he's starting to go through some changes. And so I bought these books, and we started reading them, chapter 1.
Like the body books?
Yeah, like puberty and all those things, which, my parents never did with me. It was just like, oh, I got my period. Okay, my parents are Indian, so there was no talk. They didn't have a talk, so I didn't have a talk. But I'm like, I'm going to be a different parent. So I got these books, and then he said he wanted to read them. We started with the first paragraph, and sex was one of the words. He started crying, and he's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to talk about it anymore. And my husband was out of town, and when he came back, I said, we started reading this book, and he started crying, and he said, I don't want this to happen. I don't want this to I don't want to know about this, even though he said he did, right? My husband made a good point. He's like, he wants to know, but he doesn't, because he still wants to be our baby, And so that's something I'm going to be balancing. And I think Grace probably can speak to it, because your daughter is older. Maybe you've had those conversations, but that's a challenge for me now, because I want him to know from me and Dad before he finds out on freaking TikTok or whatever he'll be on, right?
So have you had the sex discussion with him yet, or?
So he knows all of his body parts. We never did that. This is your whatever, wee or whatever names people call things. We identified all the parts. He does know what it is, what sex is, and how a baby is made, but he doesn't know anything beyond those general things. So that's where we're at right now. But I think it's very important, to have children identify body parts with their correct anatomy and the correct name, just because if they're ever in a situation where someone says, can I do whatever, and they make it a funny little cute name, they may not understand what they're talking about, and for him to never have misunderstanding of what his body parts are and what they do, right? And he also knows about consent already, right? All those things are super important. So I don't know. I just went off on a whole tangent. So
Great job, Mama. No, that's fantastic. Grace, what's two questions. Are you going through the same thing with your teenage daughter? And what's the difficulty of being the mom of a teenage girl?
Oh, there is no map for that. There is no instruction. So every situation is different. But yeah, it came a lot. But she was really good. When I talked to her, I don't know if it's because she's a girl, because I would say that most girls in the school, they are so excited to have their period. They are looking forward to that. It's like, oh, I have and even when they didn't have, I think they were lying, saying that they had, because it's like things from the girls that they want to know each other, see if they had it or not. So she's good. She's easy. She was really understanding, and I don't know, maybe it's because it's girls. They are also more talkative. They are more open. I don't know about boys, because I know it's different. It's a lot of different. But yeah, if I had a boy, I would just say, hey, I know you want sometimes to be curious about something, but hey, don't touch something. Be careful, because sometimes I know we want to know something in touch, right? But be careful here, because it's crazy what I hear in Texas. There are kids who maybe just touching girls, and I understand it's just a curiosity, and sometimes they go to jail, and they have to go through a lot of and it's really insane, So you gotta be careful. It can happen, unfortunately, these situations, and for parents to be in a lot of trouble too. Yeah, I know. I heard 10 years old boy stories like that. So my motherhood most difficult things for me right now is going to social media. Yes, like I had time to do this now, and thank you, Elektra. But I have started like last years doing social media, and then I was just so much devoted to my law firm and to the clients, and I ended up forgetting to do more videos, because my day is so busy too, like yours and everybody else, and you still now have to do time to be in social media, and you have to. Nowadays everybody's in social media, so if you have your own business, you need to make some times as well. So I think that's one. And for another thing, difficulty, it's just their opinions and see their personalities. And I don't know, maybe I'm a mother that wants to be much present. I tell her, well, you need to do this. I wish my parents would tell me to do things, because they just let me do whatever I want. And I think each parent is different, and I like to be there and guide her. I say, well, it's better you learn this language, I learned Portuguese and Spanish too. You need to study this because you know you have. And so sometimes she's like, oh, but I already know it's enough in school. And I'm like, okay, you need to speak more fluently on this part, you know? So maybe it's something that we always, have some disagreements for this. Because I'm a mother that, okay, I just want to know that this is going to serve for you and that's going to be best for you. But sometimes she doesn't want. And I'm not going to force her to become a lawyer, anyway, too. Because most parents, like lawyers, or doctors, they say, oh, well, you need to become a lawyer or a doctor. But I would just like, okay, I want you just to be happy. But remember, you need to study. That's all.
Right. Amanda, what do you anticipate being difficult?
I'm terrified of having a girl
Why?
because I was a nightmare as a teenager, and girls when they're teenagers are bitches. So if I have a girl, I know my cousins, like my sister, everyone who had 2 children had 2 boys, and then the only girl cousin is the third. And I plan, if I'm having kids, to have 2. So I know I'm going to have 2 girls. There's no doubt. So I'm terrified of girls because of what they turn into, and they don't. And Grace, I'm sure you have a lovely daughter, and I'm not saying she's a monster, and I hope she doesn't become a monster. I did, and until I became like 22, I was like a monster from probably like 14 to 22. And I put my parents through a lot of hell, and the fact that they still love me shows what unconditional love is. But other than that, I think the scariest part for me is really handling the balance. That's why I was wondering how you guys dealt, like why you guys, if it impacted your decision to have your own firm, like as someone who does as well. I'm almost like, I don't get maternity leave, I don't get paid time off. Like my husband will get paternity leave, which is great. But it's like, it's scary that like I feel like I have no time now. Same with Grace was saying with social media. I mean, I don't even have time to do that stuff, and I don't have children to still deal with. That's definitely the biggest thing. And then also like the life change. Like I love my life. I can go where I want when I want. Like I do have the dog, so like there's like a little restriction there. But you get a dog walker. You can't come home, you get a dog walker. You're not worried about like um, you know, destroying like your children and like them, doing something incredibly damaging because you're a few hours late. So like, there's certain lifestyle changes that I know we're gonna have to make if we do have children, which right now are not ready to make. But it might be something that comes naturally. So yeah, I mean, pretty much that. But the girls scare me. I mean, it could have just been because of what I went through as a teenage girl.
Yeah, girls are mean.
Yeah,
Mhm.
really.
They're very much.
The point about the firm is actually really, really important. I worked for someone who was a mom of 3 kids. She was actually in the Netflix documentary about like the most recent documentary on Netflix about immigration. She's like one of the first attorneys you see. And she told me the biggest mistake that she made with her firm was taking a year off after she had her second baby. She said she never got back to the momentum that she had when she was pregnant and didn't have that second baby. So for all 3 kids, I never stopped working. I was on Pitocin and I was sending emails. Like I never stopped working. Even I mean, I think every firm is different, but I just remembered what Marilyn said to me, and I just knew that I didn't want to lose that momentum with my firm. I want to just keep going up, up, up. And I made the decision to just continue working. And it's not because, my firm can't pay me. It's not like an economic thing. It's because of my goals and my ambitions. But I know some other women who did take time off, and they were able to, be okay with that decision or even working part-time. So I think it just depends on like what your personal goals are for your firm.
Are we wrapping soon, Elektra? Because I'm tempted to build on that, and I don't know if I should.
Yes, no, you can definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's interesting, like listening to you all and getting to know you all in a very, very brief amount of time. Also being a person who never thought that they would have kids or get married, like that's not my priority. I spent many years, I even took a break from dating, because I was career. And it was fabulous, meteoric. And what happened though now is I've become acutely aware of this whole narrative about becoming a mom. You immediately sacrifice the independence, like that you fought so hard for. And that's a widely accepted narrative because you know, I think when independence means different things at different phases of life, right? Like you're a child, that means you have your opinion and your voice, and then you're a teenager, you're learning to drive, and in your 20s, you reach this pinnacle of independence. And then you lose it when you get married and have kids. And it's such a bad way of thinking. It's really problematic. And I think that the fact that that's untrue is evident on this call right now. And the fact that like you don't lose it, it just continues to evolve. The definition of it continues to evolve. Are you having to completely change all of your priorities? And are you kind of putting yourself maybe last on the list sometimes? And, you know, all of those things are true. Maybe you don't get to do what you want, when you want, how you want, on your terms anymore. But independence can also mean you defining your own vision, you carving carving your own path for your family that breaks the pattern of the family of your past. You know what I mean? Like I'm coming from, like you don't even want to know that backstory. That's a version of independence. It's a new kind of independence that I would argue is even more profound than just doing what you want when you want. It's much deeper than that and much more meaningful than that. And you can carry your child with you in that. But yeah, sorry, I had to get that out because I think you guys, like, I love what you're saying, Elektra, about how you kept on working. And like, for me, it means maybe taking my foot off the gas. And the point isn't one way or the other way. The point is we have the power to choose. And that is an incredible form of independence.
The reason why I chose to continue working is because my mom didn't work. And my mom, despite, you know, issues that we have, I swear to God, is one of the most intelligent people I've ever met in my life. I would not be the person that I am today without my mom. And I grew up in a crazy household, super poor, but my mom makes sure that I explored everything I wanted in life. And I really wish that she would have worked. You know, she would have had like a phenomenal career. We come from women in my family who have, you know, always, you know, gone big or gone home. Like my grandma immigrated from Italy with 6 kids at 40 years old. She left her. I mean, I come from like a crazy family. I mean, good and bad. But like, I just love that Maxime and Gaetan and my kids, they see me work and they're like, oh, I want to be a lawyer too. I want to talk to my clients too. I just love that, like, from such a little age, that she knows that she can be a lawyer if she wants. Because I'm sick and tired of hearing like little girls saying they want to be like teachers or nurses. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but there's such gendered roles in society that, like, it's, you know, you would think in 2022 they would go beyond that. But the reason why this bothers me so much, because I like talked to 2 little girls like a year ago, and that's what they said, like 2 girls from like 2 different backgrounds, and they both said they wanted to be like a nurse growing up. Not that there's anything wrong with being a nurse, but it's such a, like I said, a stereotypical female role in society that
It's funny that you say that though, because my mom, she stopped working when my sister was born and didn't start working until I was in, like, I think middle school. And she was always there to be able to take us to make sure that we had every opportunity. We were fortunate that she didn't have to work. And I've said to my mom before, one of my fears about being a mom is like, I don't think I could be as good a mom as you because you didn't, I'm not going to be around like you were around. I needed my mom to come pick me up at school because I didn't feel good. She'd come and pick me up at school. So like that, going back to the fears, that's actually taps into one of mine. But it's interesting how both of our moms stayed at home, but we come out thinking about it differently. Not and my mom is very smart too. I don't know if her career path, what it would have been if she'd been working, but I never thought of it like that. I'd always thought of it like her being there like enabled me and my sister to have all the opportunities that we were lucky enough to have.
But I feel like I can give, like, if my daughter calls me now, I could just go. I got an office in New Jersey just to be close to them. If I'm working in New Jersey today, I feel like having a firm allows me to have the freedom that your mom had with you guys and that my mom had with us too, but also allows me to continue to be me. Because just like you said, and just like Joy said, I had a fantastic life. In Italy, they always say, "Oh, aren't you guys happy? Now you have noise in the house." And my husband and I were like, we had a fabulous life before kids. We did not have kids to like fill up our house. You know what I mean? But I think that, if you have like a flexible, understanding job like Joy does, and when you run your own firm, you can have the best of both worlds. It's a struggle and it's very complex. But I bet that, if your little girl calls you and she's, being a monster like you were, you could go pick her up too.
Ladies, I'm going to have to run. I just wanted to make a comment. Joy, I love what you said. I wrote down this phrase, when they say you can't have it all. You can have it all. You just have to define what your all is, right? And for me, my all is my son coming in here, giving me the day. I'm going to go to Consult Now, or Elektra, maybe for you. Let's just not judge and other cook meals. Somebody else may hate to cook. Good for them. That works for their family, right? And the other thing I wanted to say before I leave is moms, new moms to be, make sure to do self-care, even if it's 5 minutes a day. And even after you have your baby, always put yourself first, even if it's the first 5 minutes of the day, whether it's meditating, a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, because then the day will get away from you and you haven't even fulfilled yourself first, right? So good luck with your pregnancy, Joy. Amanda, love you, girl. Nice to meet you, Grace, and love you too, Elektra. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Hashi.
Hi, Hashi.
Thank you.
Yeah, Hashi made a great point about the self-care. Are you guys, well, I know, Amanda, you're not feeling the greatest. But are you like thinking about, I know you're thinking about like the embryos and all that stuff, but are you able to like focus on you and work and like what you and your husband want to do besides from like the baby stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I flat out this week, except for today, I'm working from home, but I slept most of the day because I was not feeling great. But I went to work every day this week. Otherwise, I had a lot of court and it was too close to kind of push out. I did push deadlines out. I got extensions of time for things which like, could I have fought through it and pushed myself? Yeah, I'm sure if I really tried, but I was pretty sick, like feeling pretty bad. And I was just like, I'm not even going to bother trying. Like, I went to work because my doctor's down there and we had to see apartments. And I kind of sat there most of the day being like, I feel sick. So, but I've gotten into that whole self-care mantra prior to this, because I'm totally in agreement with what Hashi said. You can't help others if you're not feeling well. I joined the Peloton family this last year, and one of the things they say, which they always talk about, like, self-care is not selfish, and that you can't pour out of an empty cup. So if you have nothing inside to give, you can't give. So I think that's a great point, that you need to first and foremost, to make sure that you're okay. And I'm probably about to hop off because I think I'm about to not be okay. Um, but I do appreciate hearing all of you ladies share your experiences in Elektra hosting. It's been really helpful for me, for someone who has a lot of fears about these things, and obviously setting myself up in a position to be able to be a mother. But maybe it's helped kind of temper some of those fears and that I have. And hopefully, I know that if I have a child, I'm sure it will be the right decision, and that she or he will, or however she or he identifies, will be intelligent and a monster at the same time, because I have no doubt I will create a monster. So sorry, world, if that happens. But thank you guys for sharing your experience. It was great to meet you, and I will keep all of what you said in mind as I continue on my journey to motherhood.
Thank you, Amanda. Feel better.
Good luck, Amanda.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Joy, have you been engaging in self-care? I know the first trimester was super hard for you.
Not really. Just to be totally honest, I am 100% invested in the principle and like 5% invested in the practice. I just feel like at this point, self-care has largely been defined by getting sleep when I can get sleep. And that's just good enough right now, like, and also with Corona and pandemic, and I've just stayed on the cautious side. So no more mani-pedis, frivolous exposure during the whole Omicron, business. And it's a lot of this pregnancy has just been home, couch, bed, Netflix. And that's kind of been it. I think I will say I do kind of regret how much time I've spent on social media, because I think that's been the opposite of self-care. It's just a lot of junk and a lot of voices in my head that have not been the most peaceful in terms of mommy content. So
it's distracting, I know.
It's a bit of advice if anyone's listening. Limit your social media.
Yeah, it's really, I feel like self-care is a really great meta to strive for. It's really, it's a great ideal. I think that it's just in practice very, very difficult. A friend of mine who just had her baby, she has a son who's only 2.5 years older than her newborn, and she sent me a text message. She's like, I've finally been able to get out of the house for a manicure. And she wrote to me, to think that this was my norm every month to go get a manicure before kids. And I think that it's something that, like Hashi said, we should strive to do at least 5 minutes a day, but sometimes you don't get those 5 minutes.
Yeah. Requires a lot of intentionality.
Exactly. You have to be hyper focused on that goal for it to happen, even for 5 minutes. And like my friend said, like, to think that this was, my monthly routine, getting manicures and pedicures. And
yeah.
What about you, Grace?
I try. I always try my best. I try to have some time to myself too. It's been hard. It's a learning process every day. Every day is a different day. I'm just trying to be, positive. Try to be thankful for everything as well. I know sometimes we need to pat our back and say, hey, you did good. You're doing great. So not just so be tough on you and criticize and see the negativity. I think maybe, yeah, I have not been much in social media. I've been coming back, but I don't read much, the social media sometimes, I follow it, but I don't go to everyone's live, and I think I just control my time on this, because I'm starting to read more in the AILA, emails more, because I've been new in AILA as well. But it's a struggle for everyone, but you need to do things first. Maybe if you, like Harsh was telling, if you start to have some time for yourself in the morning, then you're done. Then things maybe go flow, better. I prefer to work out a little bit in the morning too. A little bit. I start like little by little, and I had a surgery. I also talked to Elektra.
Yeah.
I've been much better, but it was crazy. It was totally crazy what I did, and just working for myself. And I think you just, we just be thankful and just go for the war. Every day it's a war for us, but it could be worse. It could be another war.
Yeah, no, I think that it's a journey. Every day is different. Every day changes, and this motherhood life is very unpredictable. But I'm glad that I'm glad that everyone was able to share their thoughts about their journey. I hope, Joy, you learned a little bit about what's going to happen when the baby comes.
It's a boy or girl? Do we know? It's a boy
It's
or
a girl.
Oh, it's so nice. It's a pink world.
It is absolutely a pink world. I'm embracing it.
Yay.
And I did. Thank you, Elektra. Thank you, Grace, and everyone. This has been phenomenal.
I'm
Yeah.
glad. Well, thank you, everyone who's watching. Thank you, Angela, for your comments. Thank you, everyone on Instagram. And I will see you next week for our next roundtable. But thank you to our panelists. I know we had 2 panelists drop off, but thank you, Joy, and thank you, Grace, for staying till the end. And thank you to our viewers.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you, everyone. Bye-bye.